Hello, I'm Scott Bogey here with Sebastian Oyervidez. I
There
think
we
that's how
go.
you pronounce
Yeah,
it. Ahead of his Fury FC 103 fight against Ryan Mondala. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing, sir. And yourself?
I'm doing good. And how has the training been for this upcoming fight?
Honestly, nothing's really been different, regardless of whether or not I'm in a camp or if I'm just training. I'm still doing the same thing. Everything's been good. Everything's been real good. So yeah.
And do you really see this fight as a clash of styles? You're more the grappler, the wrestler, whereas he is like that standing trading kind of guy.
I think people on the outside can see that. Obviously, in my training, I don't have
Yeah.
terrible striking. I train with a lot of the best guys in Texas, and I've been honing my craft on my striking. But obviously, I have that jujitsu in my
Yeah.
back pocket, and that's obviously going to be my main tool. But I view it as a mixed martial arts fight. He's a martial artist, I'm a martial artist, and we both have different tools. But I've got that grappling, and he's got some pretty good hands, so it should be good.
Exactly. And you kind of asked for a better start to your professional career. You've had
Yes,
two
sir.
fights, you have got two finishes, both within the first minute. That must
Hmm.
feel good.
Feels great. Feels real good.
And what is it about Fury that drew you to them? Because I know you were on their amateur series. Was it just
Hmm.
that they're going to help you get to that pro scene, make that transition a little bit easier?
That obviously helps, but I've also known Eric Garcia, the promoter, since I was like 14 because I used
Yeah.
to compete under Submission Hunter Pro under him, and I've been telling them for a long time that I was going to make that transition to MMA, but I had a lot of success in grappling, and I stuck around in
Yeah.
grappling for a while, and then I eventually made my transition, and yeah, no, it helps that they're a huge feeder for the UFC. So yeah.
Exactly, and they've kind of started to break through, showing that's a setup they do have. I think it
Hmm.
was just this season they had over 10 people go from
Right.
Fury to the Contender Series. Do you
Yes, sir.
feel do you feel like this year is their year to make that statement as being the number one organization to send people through?
100%. They have a lot of people in a lot of different divisions. In my weight class alone, we have a lot of great contenders.
Yeah,
People who are on the roster, currently on the Fury roster, 100%, I believe, UFC level. A majority of the top guys, like one of my friends, Paris Moran, he's right there. Alden Correa's right there. We have a lot of really good guys that I feel are on that UFC level. And no, this year for sure is going to be a great year for Fury for the Contender Series.
and like you said, your friend Paris, I was so gutted for
Hmm.
him in his last fight. He gets to
Hurt.
just that one fight before the UFC probably once again, and he just loses it.
It's
And that
this
must be
game is so
heartbreaking.
rough.
It must
It's
be just
hard.
heartbreaking.
It is because I see him training. I see him putting in the
Yeah,
work. We're training partners, and seeing that happen to him is obviously terrible. But seeing his mentality after the fact is really inspiring, and he'll be there. It's just life throws curveballs at Shaw, and it's up to us to it's up to us to react accordingly and get back on track. So yeah, he'll be back.
exactly. And do you feel like that is what makes the sport a lot of appealing for the spectators? Is that fact you can take that loss, come back, and still have that opportunity. Your stock doesn't really lose as much as what other sports could be.
Right. Unlike boxing,
Yeah,
where one loss takes you out of it, like we saw yesterday, um, that Gervonta Davis fight, then went to a draw.
yeah,
They value that loss a lot higher than we do in MMA just because we're not ducking fights. We're
yeah.
fighting all the toughest fighters, all the toughest competition. And if you lose, you lose. That's just the game. We can't hang our head on that. Obviously, it sucks. I don't like losing. Nobody likes losing, but this is what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, you haven't really suffered a defeat that much in your career. I think you were undefeated as an amateur. You're
Right,
undefeated as a
right.
pro. What are you
Yeah.
on about?
Right, that's true. But I've been competing in grappling for a long
Yeah,
time. I've lost a lot, you know.
yeah.
But in MMA, I'm doing pretty good right now, so I'll try to keep it that way.
And you are starting to see a lot of people transition from that grappling to the MMA. You have like yourself. you have in one, I know you have I think it's Rutulo, I think that's how you pronounce
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yep. Cater
They're,
Solo.
he's doing his stuff. What is it about making that transition that it just makes you guys just unbeatable?
I think there's a few things. Like, for example, for me, I was comfortable going into the cage because I already had somewhat of an experience competing on a big
Yeah,
stage. If you look at one great example is Cody Steele. He was a professional grappler. He made the transition. Now he's in the UFC. Cade Rotolo, he's made more money doing grappling than a lot of people have done fighting.
yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? They've been on these big stages and makes the transition a lot easier. Obviously, it's a lot scarier going out into a cage as opposed to on a mat, but that I feel gives us a bit of a advantage and kind of a head start as opposed to anybody else just going straight into MMA.
And what did you make of Mikey Musiala making that exclusive contract with the USC for grappling?
Oh, it's funny. I grappled with him not too long before that became official. I was training with him out in Vegas whenever I was training with Brandon Moreno, and I think that's great. I think that's great for the UFC Fight Pass. I think it's gonna be great to for him to be able to display grappling on such a
Yeah.
high level because he's the truth. He's so good. I can't like I've rolled whenever I rolled with him. I thought that I had good grappling, and I still think I do. But after rolling with him, he's ridiculous. He's the truth.
So you're saying that your two first round arm bars is just all right grappling.
My grappling's all right compared to his. His is amazing. Everybody else who gets to roll with him can say the same thing. So yeah.
And do you think what puts you apart from the other people is the fact that you are training with these top guys? Like you're saying, you've trained with Paris, you've trained with Brandon Moreno, you are training with these top level guys.
Right. I think what puts me apart from everybody else is I'm honest with myself. I don't see my jujitsu carrying my way all the way to the or carrying myself all the way to a UFC belt. I got to get better in these other departments. I can't get away with being a one-trick pony, and I've never tried to do that. I'm actively going out, testing myself, trying new things, trying to get better. And I'm not avoiding those difficult challenges. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get better
Yeah.
at everything else. Obviously, right now it's pretty clutch. I can just sub people, which is nice, and I'm gonna have that in the future. But by the time I get in the UFC, I want to be able to compete with those top guys. I don't want to just be hopefully get a win, hopefully get a win or two, and then be out of there. I want to be one of the best ever. So that's what I'm looking at.
And do you feel like with Fury, they aren't just going to give you these easy fights to pad your record with? I know the other day you did have, I think it was either the last event or the event before that, the Damian Anderson versus Gabriel fight. They are
Hmm.
two of the top contenders for the Fury belt next.
Right.
But nope, you two are going to fight it out.
Right. I like that they do that, and I also feel like fights like that don't necessarily ruin the other person's stock.
Yeah,
Like nobody's looking down on Wanderlei because he lost that fight. He's
no.
still amazing. He's got great grappling. They both have great grappling. Both come from jiu-jitsu backgrounds, like we were saying earlier. But yeah, no, they're doing a great job. Like for example, this fight, my opponent has, I believe, over 10 professional fights. He's been
Yeah.
at it for a minute, and it's just throwing me out there. It's all competition. That's all it is. So
And
yeah.
do you feel like him having that octagon time is going to be what proves to be that test for you?
I believe so, but I don't. I train really hard. I've
Oh yeah,
whatchamacallit, I've trained with someone who's gone against him. One of my training partners, Cameron Smotherman. He's competed against him, so he kind of
yeah.
has that. He has that experience against him, and I feel like that's gonna help me out. Um, but he has a lot of octagon time. I also have a lot of competing time. Not maybe not in the octagon, but I have a lot of time under
Competing.
lights. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
yeah.
And like you're saying, like Cameron Smotherman, he did just fight Jake Hadley, who
Yes,
after
sir.
that fight was released after taking that short notice fight. You then
Hmm.
have Roosevelt Roberts. He took two short notice fights. He's just been released. Do you feel
Right.
like if companies are still doing that, it's going to put fighters off from taking these short notice fights? Because you are putting that risk in there.
There's no risk without there's no reward without risk though. That's the
Yeah.
issue because it's easy for us to say, "Oh no, I won't take that." until you get that opportunity. Once you get that opportunity, because I was with Cam during that weight cut, he had about a day and a half to lose like 20 pounds. It's not easy, but he got it done and now he's in the UFC. So that's the risk you take. And there's no there's no glory without having to take a risk like that, you know? So I don't feel it's necessarily going to push people away from it. Obviously, it's going to be scarier. It's going to make people
Yeah.
think twice, but I think they'll still do it.
And then obviously Cameron, it was perfect for him to get that victory. We've
Hmm.
been calling for it for so long for him to get that shot in the UFC, and he was able to get in there, get that victory. He's now got that contract, and he's going
Sure.
to be making that way through that division.
Hmm. Yep, he's back at it in May as well. So he gets his second UFC appearance soon, very soon.
Well, that sounds great. And what is next for you, as long as you do stay injury free this year? Are you wanting to be active?
I'm always looking to be active. I enjoy getting better outside of camp. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Because when you're constantly in camp, I feel like you never really have an opportunity to gain new skills. You're always kind of sharpening the skills you have, which is good, but you can't experiment. There's no real experimentation in fight camp. There's one goal, and obviously you're pushing towards that one goal. But whereas if you're not in fight camp, like for me, I'm always training. Nothing changes.
yeah.
I'll be back in the gym the Monday after the fight. So, but whether I'm focusing on the next fight or if I'm improving new skills, I feel that's the difference. So, we'll see. I'm still gonna have 4 fights this year. I'm gonna be busy, but yeah, we're just gonna check with my coaches, see what they want to do, see what I feel I need to do. But yeah, I'm gonna be busy regardless.
So do you like to just sit down with your coaches to plan your next step instead of you just focusing on it? You are taking that advice from elsewhere.
Everything I do is based off of what my coaches feel I should do.
Yeah.
My one of my head coaches, Eve Edwards, he's a legend. Him and my other instructor, my primary instructor, Tony Torres Aponte, I've been with him since I was 8 years old. So everything that they say is gospel to me. Everything that they say, I'll do. Right. So if they feel I need to improve at something, that's what we're going to be focusing on. And they're very honest with me. I'm honest with myself, and I feel that's why I've been able to show my skills in the octagon like I have. So yeah.
I was going to say, how much do you feel like being honest with yourself helps you make that improvement? Because you're not just trying to hide it, you're not just going to put it away in the cupboard. You are just trying to work on it. You're being truthful to yourself. You need to work on this. Let's just get this sharpened.
No, it's huge. And it's kind of hard not to be when I have these training partners that whoop my
Yeah,
ass every day. I can't think that my hands are that great and then go spar with Adrian Yanez and I find out real fast that they're not what you thought they were. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it's once when you have good people around you who keep you honest, who keep you on your toes, keep you improving, it's difficult. It's really difficult to have like just a false sense of your greatness. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it's it's very important to have good people around you. And yeah.
And just speaking to you just now, I can just tell that you aren't just focusing on that undefeated record. You just don't really care about that. You know, you just want to keep getting these fights and just keep improving is the majority of what you're looking into.
Right. At the end of the day, I want to be one of the best to ever do this,
Yeah,
right? So if I have to run into some challenges along the way, that's then so be it. But I'm just trying to do this the smartest I can, and I'm trying to be the best representation possible for my coaches, for Fury, because for me, I don't see a benefit of getting pushed in there too early and not doing what I possibly could. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So my goal isn't to get to the UFC. My goal is to be one of the best in the UFC, be a champion. So I'm not trying to take shortcuts to get there.
yeah. You're willing to take that a little bit longer path as long as it means that when you do eventually get there, you're not going to be swimming with the sharks.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And obviously, it was your division on show last night in the UFC. Manuel Cape in that main event. What did you make of that fight? And if you were watching it? And what did you
I
think?
wasn't able to catch it.
Well, what do you
I
think
passed
is
out. I didn't catch it.
what do you think is the situation now with that division? Do you feel like he now has that case for saying he wants that title shot before Cara France, or do you feel like it should be Cara France and then potentially Cape?
It's very difficult because Pantoja has been so dominant.
Yeah,
So there's so many good contenders. You have Royval, but unfortunately he's lost. Pantoja, you've got Moreno, who just looked amazing against Albazi,
yeah,
outclassed him. Um, Car France is a good. He Car France. I think that makes sense. I think that fight makes sense just because what he just did to Urseg. Urseg had a great performance against Pantoja. He lost, but he had a great performance, and Car France just put him away. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. I think Cap does have a good case for being next in line, but there's a lot of factors. We got to see what happens in this Moreno and Urseg fight. We got to see. There's a lot of things, bro. Like Asakura, he's also there. He's in the division now. Um, but yeah, no, we'll see. I think Kai France getting the shot makes sense. So I'm not necessarily too mad at it. Obviously, I can understand if you're Cap and you're coming off of
yeah.
all these finishes, why you'd be disappointed, but it is what it is.
And then it has been shown in your division, especially, it isn't just getting the victory that matters. It is putting on that show. Like Mukayev, there is a bit of uncertainty whether there was stuff behind the scenes, but Dana White did call him boring, and he's no longer in that UFC, even though he did have that winning streak.
It's unfortunate because I'd never
Yeah,
necessarily considered him too boring because obviously he had that performance with Cop that wasn't great, especially after they were talking all that shit. That
yeah.
wasn't a good look. And on top of that, the backstage drama. I didn't think he was boring, but you can't. I'm not gonna say you have to be a good company man, but it must have been stuff behind the scenes because he's such a good, just tremendously talented rising prospect. For the UFC to cut him the way they did, I I can't see I can't see it not being related to a backstage incident or something like that.
And I think what other people are saying is you do have people in the company, like John Jones, for example, who hasn't got the best, what's the word, profile when it comes to outside of the
No.
cage, but he's still in there. So it does seem like it might have just been around with the matchmakers, which they need to just get in the room and just settle their beef.
It Yeah, Mokayev doesn't have nearly the pull that John Jones does,
Oh, yeah,
unfortunately. And
yeah,
you got to consider John Jones didn't start getting in trouble like that until he was already a champion. He
yeah.
already, I think the first incident that happened was right before his like Rashad Evans fight. So he already had a few title defenses. So Mokayev can't walk around like he's John Jones if he's barely in the top 10. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
And how is it over in the States? Because from here in the UK, it does seem a little bit like John Jones is either he probably is just doing it to try and build the fight up because it is taking that long. But there is a wee case of is he a wee bit scared of Aspinall? But it does look like it is probably just building that fight up even more. Is that what it's like for you guys?
I think Aspinall is the truth. I think Aspinall is really that guy. But we also got to consider it's John Jones that we're talking about. John
Yeah,
Jones has beat all of these murderers, right? So I don't think it's up to anybody to say he's scared of someone else, considering what he's done. Like, there's a
yeah.
ton of people who have never fought before who really can't really grasp how great this dude is saying that John Jones is scared of someone else. There's no reason for that. But I'd be scared of him. I'd be scared of Aspinall. Aspinall is looking real good right now. Uh so I don't know. I feel John Jones isn't scared of him. He may be trying to get more money, but I'm nobody to say that John Jones is scared of someone else. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And how what do you feel like is going to be the next set of prospects? I'll let you name a few people from Fury to make that next step.
Oh, my boy Tonio Figueiredo, he's right there. He's one of
Yeah,
my we train
definitely.
together a lot. It's funny because it feels like we're doing the same thing, but we have different styles of doing it.
Yeah.
So, because he's knocking everybody out, I'm subbing everybody in pretty short. short periods of time. So he's a great one. Obviously, we got Paris Moran, Alden Correa, and these are all just 25. We got Imanol, who's in the Ultimate Fighter,
Yeah,
just 25ers. It's crazy with like the talent that we have. In other divisions, we have really good people. I'm trying to think. I pay pretty close attention to my division, so I'm trying to think of other people. I mean, Michael Aswell doesn't have the he doesn't have a contract yet, but he's one of those guys.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so much talent, so much talent.
And like you're saying, with Figueiredo, Antonio Figueiredo,
Hmm.
that is just showing you how good Fury is in terms of getting you the fights. Because he's current, I think he's 3-0 just now, and
Yeah,
saw the other day he has got a fight booked.
about to
He
be
just,
4-0.
yeah, he just started last year, so they are giving
Yeah,
you these fights quickly, because, and that is what you guys are wanting as fighters. If you're healthy, you're wanting to go in.
right, right, right. And he's a dog because he a lot of these fights that he's had have been short notice.
Yeah,
His last fight was short notice against a guy with a lot of fights. So no, they do. Eric does a great job of getting us opponents. He does exactly what a fighter would want, right? He gets us these
yeah,
opportunities, and also he's also pretty understanding. If we're not able to take a fight, if we want to wait it out a little bit, he's also good with that. He's just we got a lot of talent on the roster, and he does a great job. Him alongside Rich Burmaster, they both do a great job with the matchmaking at Fury.
exactly. Speaking to the Fury athletes, they all just have good things to say about
Hmm.
Eric, and that is what really stands out for Fury. Is
It's
it's just if you have that person leading it, who is everyone just loves, it just makes it just a lot easier for negotiations.
so much easier, so much easier. He's the man.
And what was it that brought you into the sport? I know you started with the wrestling, but what really brought you to
Mhm.
that?
Um, yeah, no, it was wrestling. Well, I was a big pro wrestling fan, and I saw some MMA. I forgot which fight it was, but there was some jiu-jitsu in it. I was like, that looks pretty similar. So that's what brought me into it. But what really got me to love the sport is just having so much fun doing jiu-jitsu and then just wanting to try MMA. I started doing MMA at the same gym where I was doing jiu-jitsu, and I just felt like it was a great continuation of my martial arts journey. Just carrying on doing MMA after competing a lot in jiu-jitsu. So yeah.
And who was it, either in the wrestling or in MMA, that you were looking up to?
My early inspirations, I was a huge Ortega fan. I was a big Brian Ortega fan. His ability to do jiu-jitsu in MMA was amazing. Really, all the jiu-jitsu guys, I was huge fans of them. Um, all the small guys. I was a huge Mighty Mouse fan, big fan of Dominic Cruz, all of those guys. Um, Oliveira, I remember Oliveira when he was damn near had a backwards record, like an upside down
Yeah.
record in the UFC. Uh, he his journey up to the top has been truly amazing. So there's a lot of guys I look up to, and even currently the guys on the roster. There's so many good guys out there. So yeah, I'm just a huge fight fan. Even if I wasn't doing this, I would still be a massive fight fan.
Now, I don't think I can get you Oliveira, sadly. However, Ortega, if you want to stay in a year or two, do you want to go down to bantamweight? We'll agree on a bantamweight fight. Sebastian will go up to bantamweight, you go down to bantamweight, and you can have that fight.
I would have to put on some weight, sir. I'm not the biggest 25er as it is. Obviously, I'm still growing. I'm
Yeah.
20 at the moment. So in some years, we'll see what happens. But man, by the time I'm in the UFC, Ortega's going to be a little older. I would say Ortega takes that one.
You have to believe in yourself. If you go into that cage
Right.
without any self-belief, that's the first battle already lost.
While I'm in the cage, something will probably change. But
That
right
armbar won't
now,
be
thinking about
allowed.
it, right. If we're doing straight grappling, I'm gonna put myself against anybody. I may not win, but yeah.
And do you feel like if they were to come to you, like the Submission Hunter Pro things, do you feel like you would take something like that right now, or are you just solely concentrating on the MMA scene?
I just Yeah, I just did one. I did one in January.
Yeah,
And my only thing with that is, bro, I love competing in jiu-jitsu, but I know myself in the sense that I'm so competitive. where if I'm doing a jiu-jitsu event, I would feel like I'd be doing a disservice to myself and my gym if I wasn't 100% committed to jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like I did more striking for this last jiu-jitsu event than I did grappling just because that's what I need more. And it worked out well for me because I have pretty good jiu-jitsu, but against these high-level guys, I would need to be focusing on jiu-jitsu. So, like I said, I feel like it would be a disservice to my team if I wasn't committing 100%.
That's completely understandable. I'll thank you for coming on. Is there anything you wanting to add or anyone you wanting to shout out before you catch up with those fights and the Elimination Chamber?
Oh yeah. Man, shout out to John Cena. He let us he surprised all of us. But yeah, other than that, I don't know. I'd love to shout out my gym. Shout out to Urban Jungle Self Defense. Shout out to Thug Jitsu University with my boy Eve Edwards. And yeah, shout out to you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm happy we finally got to do this. So yeah,
Thank you very much.
of course.